All right. Yes, there we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lab to Market. We will talk about investment today and impact investment specifically. And let me share some slides because everybody loves slides. Let's see. Here we go. And then present like this. Whoa. I can't see myself now. Interesting. I hope that you can see me. Call me if there's something wrong because I can't get any feedback now. So this is what we got going on today. I'll do a quick intro, talk a little bit about stuff. Then we have Inka coming in from Voima Ventures. It's going to be really cool to hear about her. We have a war story there as well. I hope that she could share a case that's interesting so you can see how this looks like in reality. Then we have Cecile, and she is head of impact and sustainability, and she's from Israel, so she'll have a different, well, hopefully similar perspective, but still a different perspective because she is from a different country. So it's really cool. We'll have time for Q&A, so write down your questions that you want to have. We will not, we will probably not take questions during the talks, but we will take the questions in the Q&A. So just write them there, and if you're lucky, we'll take them right away, but otherwise we'll take them in the Q&A. So prepare your questions. We'd love to take them up on stage. And then in the end we'll have networking. I'll talk about that in a while. So these are our nice presenters, and then you'll see them again very soon. So this is something we're going to have this open floor in the end. So please use this opportunity. This is a rare opportunity where you can talk with Inka and Cecile here. That they will be available after the event. So not only can you use a Q&A, but you can actually go and talk with them and say, hello, I'm doing this, or ask some interesting questions that wasn't covered in the Q&A. And also there are other people in this environment that we're in now that can help you. So please use the tables in the end. Just click somebody we find them interesting. Just say, hey, what's up? What are you doing? Every connection, it's a good chance that you might find somebody that is that's useful for you, because all the people here are interested in this topic. And yes, there we go. So there are some things going on in the ecosystem. I'll just share with you quickly. We have the website up, amazing, from Lab to Market. So you can go in there and you can sign up for the email list to be updated on stuff that's going on. So that now exists. It's from Lab to Market. You can search for that. It's on the Untitled Venture program under their pages. So we have that. And if you want to look at some events, there are really cool stuff happening in Espo. So this is their page here, businessevents.espo.fi. Check it out. Here are many, many cool things. And most of it, or I guess everything, is digital. So that means that you have access to it somewhat, even though you might not at the moment reside in Espo. Alto has a couple of events here. You see on we have 18th of February. I guess that one is done already. But we have a couple of more events that you can join. So I recommend to use them. I think they're also available to the public. So check them out. And then we at VTT, those of you here who are, for example, business angels or investors, I also work at VTT, so that's why I'm sharing this with more zeal than the other ones, is that we're looking for commercialization agents to join VTT and help us commercialize different type of patents or innovations that we have. So please reach out to VTT Launchpad if you yourself are interested, or if you have good contacts, please share this with them and have them sign up. We're building this pool of good commercialization agents. So yeah, please share this and join. Fiban will come in today and talk a little bit before the Q&A. Johanna, that's your cue. It's going to be after this. And so Fiban, and there's a lot of people invited for Fiban today. So I don't know exactly how many of you there are, but today you'll get to learn about how to do the impact investment in a smart way. And yes, when is the next event? I'm not sure. I didn't get it, but this is the event. There will be another one, but we don't know when. And again, use the tables in the end. Please use them. It's very practical. And if you are afraid, I'll be there. Just click on my table. You can talk with me. I'm a nice guy. Don't worry. We can talk. And that was it. That was my quick little presentation. And let's see if I stop the screen sharing. Yes. All right. Now I can see the chat box. Awesome. And we have this calendar there as well from me. Very nice. Okay, that was the beginning. So let's get going with Inka. She is the founder and managing partner at Voima Ventures. And they were the first Nordic deep tech VC, and they invest in science-based growth companies. Look at that, Inka. Did I nail it?
Yes, you did excellent job. No rehearsals. Thanks, Rasmus, for a wonderful intro.
Thank you. Well, the stage is yours, Inka. Please tell me all you know about impact investing in 20 minutes.
Yeah, so luckily we have Cecile, who is really the pioneer in impact investing. Voima Ventures is obviously deep tech-centric VC fund, and most of the investments that we do have a profound impact on the society or the environment. However, I wanted to give you a perspective to science-based startup investing, and I at least, the briefing that I got was that somehow to give a bit of a perspective to the participating business angels or other investors or even entrepreneurs, like what investing and means in the deep tech context, and what is then the impact relating to there too, and how we are looking into that. I'm sharing my just a second with you. And I hope you can see it. I'm actually downloading it here. So if you're saying something at the chat box, unfortunately, I can't see it. So I will obviously have a chance to scroll through the chat box-based questions later on.
However, I can have a look at it, Inka, if something comes up, yeah. And we can see your screen and see it's loading here, but we can see it and we see your face to the left here, even though you can't see us.
Okay. Excellent. So let's get going. We have efficient plus minus 20 minutes to talk, maybe 15 minutes. So we'll get going. So topic of the day is really how to get started with impact and deep tech investing. And let me share a little bit about Voima Ventures. So we're a new kid on the VC block here in the Nordics. We started operations a year and a half ago. And our roots come from VTT. So we manage two funds. The first fund, number one, is a spin-off portfolio from VTT, so old VTT Ventures. And the new Voima Ventures fund is actually a deep tech fund focusing into science-originated companies from Nordics and Baltics. And really the angle for us is that we aim to solve the big global problems through combining entrepreneurship and science and smart capital. And what do we mean by these, global problems, and how have we, defined impact for ourselves? Really comes from the fact that, for example, myself and rest of the founders, we're now a team of 10 with 6 senior investors or partners. We've been working in the tech ecosystem for 20, 30, even 40 years. One of my colleagues, and there's been so little emphasis on environment or impact in this industry. So when we started to work on the investment strategy and the thesis, we basically came into a conclusion that now is the time to bring those science-based innovations to the market, which can have a profound impact on the society or the ecosystem as such. And how have we defined a impact? It actually means solving a big global problem that we need as a humankind to solve within the next 20 to 30 years. And what kind of those topics could be? It can relate to land and water, food production, health or healthcare, overall security, bioeconomy, circular economy, energy or mobility, and so forth. Obviously, even quantum computing as such can provide us potentially in the future major solutions to these big problems that we're trying to figure out, even potentially by figuring out what photosynthesis is about. But altogether, in many impact-related investment opportunities, there is a scientific angle, and that is another point of view that we've taken. Basically, in the Nordics at least, but also globally, we've seen huge tech wave, first in the 90s and 2000, let's say, within telecom, then in overall digital platforms and digital services, now on let's say, this kind of a next generation of platform economy and so forth. But at the same time, there are so many underlying technologies that are developing super fast. and where actually the core research has been conducted during the last 10 or 20 years, whether that's in biomaterials or nanomaterials or quantum computing or in optics and imaging. And when we kind of look at the timing for impact investing, kind of the big topic here is not only the tech disruption itself, it's also the fact that more and more entrepreneurs are coming from the scientific base. For Israel, this is a normal life, but I think here in the Nordics, we haven't had that much of a, let's say, movement between academia and entrepreneurial ecosystem. And in the world, if we look like the big tech hubs from, MIT, University or Stanford, obviously all of those innovation ecosystems have been able to generate new value by creating companies, and often the founders of these companies are scientists. And lastly, sustainability and ESG as a whole, we see a huge pressure now for the publicly listed companies through these huge institutional investors and funds, starting from BlackRock, to put a major pressure to energy or manufacturing or even traditional transportation companies to do something about their carbon footprint and have a role as a good corporate citizen. And this, I think, is a major opportunity for impact investing. It means, ability to create new products and services, generate new business models, and eventually really and truly disrupt traditional value chains. For us, we've defined deep tech as because it's a kind of a bit of a buzzword, as something that has which is typically has roots in academic or scientific research. Usually, our investment or portfolio companies have been founded by teams from university or research facilities. However, over half of our current deal flow actually comes directly from entrepreneurs who are just focusing on solving that huge global problem by discovering a solution from scientific base, and then they've kind of looked into science and found potentially a scientific co-founder to the company. So that's happening systematically currently as well. But then, of course, you may have patentable technology, so which creates you an IP asset. And things to take into account as an investor, of course, is that there's typically a long time to market. You need to develop the technology in order to get into proof of concept and get your access through your industrial partners to the market. And the capital requirements tend to be really heavy. So if you're building a next generation of protein brewery or a optical waveguides, which are printed for future AR glasses or sensing materials for automotive industry, as these pictures here kind of outlay, it takes substantial amount of capital. And as an angel and early stage investor, you kind of need to make your math to understand that how does your own ownership evolve during those funding cycles, and what kind of vehicles and instruments there are actually to support the founders. But then when successful, these startups tend to have a profound impact and lasting impact on the world. So like Solar Foods here, Pasi Vainikka is holding a bottle of Cecile, which is a protein produced by feeding solar energy and electricity to bacteria. So it's a food chain innovation, one of the companies from our portfolio. We're, of course, very well positioned to generate science-based startups here in Finland, even better than other parts of Scandinavia, I would say. When measured in terms of a per capita engineers or patents or PCT publications, Finland obviously scores really high in, computer technologies and digital communications, but also in new materials, biotech, and medtech. We've kind of look the markets through the kind of a macro lenses. So we in the Nordic Baltic scale, you could say that we have roughly around 10,000 startups. Deep tech science-based represents approximately, let's say, 20% of that. And within the next 10 years, we believe that, a big portion, or kind of a fairly substantial portion of these companies will grow into major valuations beyond billion and plus. And so what we're saying here is that from investment thesis point of view, these science-based companies, which are in most cases impact companies as well, will grow into substantial valuations thanks to their tech-based, asset, thanks to their, timing, thanks to their kind of entrepreneurial capabilities, and obviously by combining the Nordic tech talent and startup community with the science base is really the big opportunity that we need to now capitalize here in the Nordics.
Can I ask you a question? This was actually really good. A guy called Marco, he asked, can you define deep tech? We just went through it, like, both of us, like, we just went through it. What is deep tech to you?
Yeah, so if I recap, it's typically deep tech typically has roots in science or core research. It has academic roots. So there is a kind of a scientific evidence for the kind of a innovation or the base for the technology and technology itself that the company is developing. Typically, there's strong IP asset, which is not the case actually in the AI typically, but everywhere else you have quite strong IPR pool, and then also your let's say innovation tends to be radical instead of incremental. So that's what we meant by having a profound impact to the society or to the business as such.
Thank you, Inka.
Okay, just a quick view on our deal flow. We've gone through now around 3,000 cases through. We've assessed more detail, 700 cases. We've invested in with 2 term sheets under works, and here obviously the key point is that you as an early stage investor need to find your sources to tap into big enough pool of opportunity. Investment evaluation is super tough. You need to find you need to somehow understand whether the science behind the innovation is really rock solid. Is it a blue ocean or a red ocean opportunity, and so forth. We'll come to that a little bit later. I'll not run through all of our investments, but I'll just give you a bit of a view, where we have invested as a fund. Typically, we invest in the founding stage when the company is founded from the research facility or in the seed, but we may go as an initial ticket even to Series A as a first investment. This is the way we build and manage our portfolio risk. But we have Aalto University spin-off Elfus developing a world's most sensitive photo detector, basically optics and photonics innovation that's very much focusing to safety and security, but even more so to wearables. Genomil Health is a spin-off from ETH from Switzerland. It's a Finnish research scientist team, but they're developing the next generation liquid biopsy diagnostics using AI and next generation gene sequencing. Then, for example, Ivari Technologies is a spin-off from VTT. They are providing a UVB-based indoor positioning solution, SOFI filtration, clean water. So they provide water purification solution based on ultrasound to process industry and even gas and oil. And then just a few other highlights, for example, Hurricane Unwinder, which is called Skyfora. They predict the movements of hurricanes and forecast the damages, and also they have a hardware for the actual weather sonde, so for environmental IoT measurement, or Enifer Bio, which is generating next generation of protein for fish food, so from cellulose. So instead of us feeding soy to fishes, we can feed them cellulose-based protein. Or Petolar, they do geopolymer-based concrete and cement. So they replace basically the traditional concrete and cement industry with a carbon negative solution, which is kind of a pretty unique. So as you can see, a wide, versatile portfolio from cancer diagnostics to next generation of construction materials. So we've, as an investor, we've spread the risk of our investing into multiple industries. This has been the biggest reason for that, is that we have such a small critical mass still in the Nordics of deep tech companies. If we would do European-wide fund, we would probably have a specific domain focus. But from the impact point of view, we can basically say that we're very strongly impacting to 9 UN sustainable goals. And this is actually one of the challenges, I think, in impact investing. When the companies are, and if they are successful, they can basically, have a huge impact in terms of a UN sustainability goals. But if we look at the statistics from our ESG measurement, so we do ESG survey on a yearly basis, and I emphasize here that we're not an official ESG fund, but we do measure this because we want to learn and see how things are currently. So only 20% of the companies actually have a true ESG strategy in place. So they may have a code of conduct and they might have anti-discriminatory policies and strong policies supporting diversity, but it doesn't mean that as a company they would have all the governance in place for ESG. So if you're looking for impact investment, like according to financial regulation, startups might be difficult sources to find. However, again, I think the way to look at the impact is really from the nature of the companies, what they do, and can that be a successful business in the course of the next 10 years. A few words of our deal flow. Majority comes from universities, so that is of course a important source for you as well if you're looking into opportunities as a commercial expert or a angel investor. And we focus very much in our value creation to 3 topics, and this is a classic handicap of a impact or science-based company. Here in our ecosystem, which is really the team. So often the team lacks entrepreneurial growth company, international sales, fundraising, other team building skills. So resourcing them with talent is super important. Secondly, of course, providing access to global customers and partners, particularly industrial partners, is super essential. Very rarely impact or deep tech companies can, let's say, disrupt the company, the market alone. You tend to need to use a kind of efficiently the ecosystem and also work with big players, giving, for example, this construction industry, which is very conservative. So you need to find those players who have the highest pressure to move to carbon negative materials and who are willing to pilot and willing to ramp up the production as a kind of your champion customer. And then, of course, the capital, the international capital, the bigger funds, the specialty funds, all of that. It's our job to work there and support our founders. So how to get started? Here are my 3 advice to you. First one is really to get connected with the universities, research facilities, and the ecosystems. PTT Launchpad is a great one. Aalto is managing a really good entrepreneurial programs, but also other universities or even the Swedish ones are worthwhile of discovering through. But also being connected to the Nordic business angels and slush kind of organizations, because really the added value that you as an investor or early stage entrepreneur can bring is the talent to these teams, which they are desperately looking for. Secondly, obviously, you need to define your own criteria. How do you evaluate it? For example, we see a lot of impact or science-based startups which have just an incremental, let's say, innovation. It's not a game changer. It's not going to move the needle from our fund's point of view. It might be a worthwhile angel investment, but it's not something that we as a impact-driven VC fund would be looking for. Secondly, we strongly assess the team, but also the dynamics in the marketplace. And of course, the timing of the investment tends to be a very critical question and so forth. Then thirdly, build a portfolio strategy and syndicate with deep pockets. Typically, these companies raise anything from founding capital to multiple seed investments because they're improving their technology, and accessing a big Series A from 10 to 20 million will take time. And after that, the typical leap is up to 50 million B round. So and of course you have soft elements and public fundings and so forth, but it's important that you're not alone when you're investing as a seed investor. So you have a syndicate and other good collaborators that you can work with when you're starting to work with the teams that you select to work with. And then this is just an illustrative example, but really consider the value creation steps and capital requirements when you do the follow-on round. So if you do a $500,000 seed round with 2 million pre-money, when is the Series A, and is that, you know, 500,000 going to take you there, or do you actually need a second seed in the between, or what would have to be achieved in order to get into M&A or, you know, major Series B, or is IPO even possible for this kind of company? So having this long-term view and long-term aspect is even more essential with deep tech and science-based impact companies than with traditional digital startups. And finally, you know, focus to the best ones in your portfolio. Get prepared for exit. So what the exit readiness is in different stages, and how do you work with value creation? We have our own way. We focus into these three things: team, industrial partners, and value-adding capital. But you might have a different role. You need to think it through and obviously communicate it clearly with the team and other stakeholders. And really, the exit readiness depends on the timing, depends on the market, but typically you already need to be on a growth track. Unless you do a very quick tech sale, which obviously means that you need to be really, really unique of a kind in the industry. This was my presentation. I don't want to eat the time from Cecile because I want to hear her thoughts. So maybe I'll stop here and hear any questions or comments there may be.
Thank you very much, Inka, for that presentation. We went through many, many different things. I wrote my own notes here. There are many interesting topics, I think, to cover in the Q&A. Let's see if there was anything special we should ask. They had all kinds of stuff. The Q&A question. Well, there's kind of difficult. There are kind of difficult questions that will take more than a minute. So I think we'll do like this. We'll say thank you very much, Inka, for your presentation, and we'll hear more from you in directly after Cecile's presentation, where we'll take all kinds of questions. Thank you, Inka.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And now let's bring up Cecile. You can put your camera and mic on. So she is the head of impact and sustainability at Pitango Capital. And you have a strong background in impact investment from Israel, and we're really interested to hear about your perspective. But please, this is going to be more of a conversation. So you can, I will give you this. Please define yourself. Who is Cecile?
Oh my God, you can't seriously mean that. So hi, everyone. First of all, thanks, Rasmus, for inviting me. And thanks, Inka, for this amazing presentation. And I agree with all of it. Like, I could actually adopt your presentation. Well, as Rasmus said, I'm the head of impact and sustainability for Pitango Venture Capital, which is Israel's largest and oldest venture capital fund. It's been here for 26 years and has invested in over 250 companies. We have a whole stable of unicorns, whatnot. The important thing is that Pitango, as a mainstream venture capital fund, decided to adopt and adapt the worlds of impact and sustainability into its core activities and operations. And that leads maybe to a very short answer to your question. I am a person who's passionate about making a dent or an influence on our world and on our society. I believe deeply that it's in our hands, that whatever we do has both positive and negative impact, and we need to acknowledge that and be aware and or at least do our best to have as much positive impact in whatever we do and mitigate or reduce the negative impact to the bare minimum. I believe in the power of technology in addressing some of the biggest challenges that we face in our world. And this is like in every bone and cell in my body. So even at dinner tables, this is what we talk about. I'm the proud mother of 4 daughters. Trust me, the issues of gender equality and girl power is very present in our home. So yeah, I'm a big chameleon. I think I'm many, many things, but this is really my core.
All right, thank you. And you even have the Sustainable Development Goals printed behind you on the wall.
I do. This is my Bible, and anyone who sees me should see this as well.
Very beautiful. All right, but let's get into some cool questions we have, and we might be able to. Well, we'll take the audience question probably for the when you both are there. So we talked about this before we had this event, and you said something that was sounded almost crazy for me, and I think this is the biggest issue. You say that we can do profit maximization through impact investment, and I would say most people think that's almost impossible. Could you go into that? Why do you think that is profit maximization even?
Yeah. So first of all, we have to understand that impact is a spectrum, and we are in the business of technology. And what I say about maximizing both profits and impact relates to technology, because in many cases, you can decide where you want to be in the risk and return and kind of investments that you do. So just to give an example, if you're going to build a company that is hiring people with disabilities, for example, then you will not expect to have the same returns as you would if you didn't hire these people, because you're going to have more expenses. So of course, there are domains in the business world where you have to make concessionary returns or take a decision what is more important to you. But technology is not such a case. I think technology, and it's not only my thinking, it's actually been proven and it's empirical. So it's not just a wish or a thought. When you do this right, as a matter of fact, if you build companies that create technologies that are able to address these challenges that are behind me, then, and that is embedded into how you design your product and how you design your market, then not only are you creating a very focused company that understands which market and which individuals and users it's serving, but you also build a very strong link between your solutions or your product and the problem you're trying to address. When you identify who your stakeholders are, you can very well identify the way to reach them. And that in itself builds a very resilient and strong business. Now, if you add to that companies that have a strong narrative, that are able to show and prove and talk about the impact that they're creating, then you basically have three additional points that will help you be more profitable. Number one, you will support your brand. Everybody wants to buy from companies that are creating solutions that really are bigger than themselves, that have a mission behind them. And it creates much more brand loyalty. It creates much more committed customers, and that has an impact on your bottom line. Number two, when you want to hire the best talent and keep them on board, when you tell the story of the company in the prisms, through the lens of the social and environmental impact that you're actually creating, believe me, everybody wants to work in these companies. And it's not about the salary anymore. Everybody gives salaries, everybody gives the same terms, but it's about the mission and the passion behind it. And guess what? People who are happy to come to work are also more productive. And research shows that about 30% increase in productivity in people that work for companies that they believe in their mission. So number two, HR, human capital. Number three is access to capital. I think that people don't realize that more and more capital is being redirected towards companies that have a strong impact behind them that can be proven. And that is something that when you have such a company, you unlock your ability to raise capital from these sources. Inka just mentioned Larry Fink and BlackRock. That's just as one example. If you don't comply with that, you will not be able to fundraise, even on the very basic ESG levels. I mean, even the Norway Wealth Fund just announced that if there's not at least 30% women in the boards, they won't invest in the funds and in the companies. So obviously, it's coming, and we have to conduct ourselves in a way that is aligned with how we want to see our society and our planet, which means what impact we have. So for all the good reasons, except for the fact that it's just the right thing to do, but for all the good reasons, when you build a real solid business case with a solid product that is tech-based, that addresses a clear and defined and measurable social goal or environmental goal, then you do both.
All right. That's a very, very nice answer you have here because you all talked a little bit about the hidden benefits of impact investment. So they kind of go hand in hand. We might go into that again if you come up with something again. But then I'm about doing good for the world and stuff. I work with startups and also with scientific startups, and there's in my opinion a strong overlap with people who want to do good in the world and people who lack the business understanding of how to make that good happen while making money. it so easily goes into something that is, just not nice, do locally, or they try to do something globally, but there's no money coming in. Could you, like, how do you identify the people who have this type of mission, but like get the angle right, how to make money from it? Could you, is there anything you can say on that topic?
Yeah, of course. So what you're describing is a result of many years of pounding of the fact that you either do good or you make money. So, our parents' generation, they had two pockets. One pocket where they would maximize their profits with their capital, and the other pocket where they would actually provide grants to social activities. And it was mainstream known fact that you would work to make money, and then if you were successful, you would be responsible for society, and then you would, of course, contribute to society, and that goes to philanthropy. But what happened was that these same people, with one pocket, they would maximize profits, and by that, they sometimes would destroy the planet, abuse people, abuse rights, and then with the other pocket, they would contribute money to solve these problems that they actually created with the first pocket. So I think this is, like, in the past decade or so, we're seeing that this is going away. Of course, there are still people who think in those two silos, but this is really going away. But that conditions people to think that you do either or. And people who wanted to do good went to the nonprofit sector and philanthropic sector, and people who wanted to just do business and make money went to the private sector and the business sector. And now these worlds are converging, and people more and more understand, and certainly millennials understand this, that we have to look at the world in a very holistic point of view. At the end of the day, I'm this one human being. I'm one person. I'm the same person when I go to work. I'm the same person when I give money to charity. I'm the same person when I go out and have a beer with my friends. I'm the same person in everything I do. So why should my money not be reflecting who I am? Why should my abilities, my resources, my time, my efforts, my talent be distributed in any different way? I mean, what I carry with me is who I am. Like, you really started this with this question. And I think every person needs to ask himself, who are you? And what do you want to do? And if you want to do good and make tons of money, that is absolutely fine. And actually, you need to find the way to do it so that an entrepreneur can say, okay, I'm building this product or this company that wants to succeed. And I'm not ashamed to say that I want to succeed financially, but I also want my product to do something good for society, and I want to be accountable for that. And today it's entirely possible. So don't listen to your parents who are telling you that you have to do either or, and don't read these old economics books that say that the business of business is business and we don't need to take care of anything else. Just forget about these things. We understand today that there is no contradiction and that entrepreneurs can really follow their dreams and talk about it. Now, I will have a caveat on that. Still, the people who are managing most of the capital in the world are still very much stuck in the old paradigm. So and I see that happening. So when entrepreneurs come to pitch to a VC, which is not an impact VC or doesn't care about ESG or any of that stuff, they will either hide the fact that they want to do some good, or they will just add it like on the side because they're afraid that the investors are not going to invest in them, because in their heads they're going to be thinking, oh, these entrepreneurs are trying to do good, so maybe they won't be maximizing profits. So my advice to these people is, say, if you are encountered with old school, I would say, investors, you don't need to talk about your impact because you will just confuse them. If you talk about and I would, of course, advise entrepreneurs to find investors that think like them, and investors that don't want you to hide this, but actually are seeing this as an advantage, not as a disadvantage. But if you can't find them, I wouldn't talk about it too much because we can't always fix everything. And we need to get funded. Yeah. So it's important to speak the right language. But I would certainly urge the entrepreneurs to find investors that do understand that this old paradigm is dead. Yeah. We need to understand how we do both.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I think that if you use the angle of profit maximization and explain this is our niche, and this is if we have any proof that this niche is working the way it should, I would say like just sell it like it is worth something. Like you said, it is this is profit maximization. It has an impact component, but that is the reason why it's working so well, because we have this type of support from our customers or something like that.
Exactly. You weave it into your story, and that way you see how that actually creates benefit. But again, the old school investors might not agree with that and might not understand it. So, be aware of that. Try to find go to Inka. She'll get it.
Yeah, right. Okay, we flip the story. We talked a little bit how now we mentioned how an individual or company can talk to and try to find the right investor for them. But if we flip it around, because many of people in this meeting now are investors who probably haven't done impact investing before, and they are probably afraid of many things. So, and that's one of the reasons. So that they're unused to it. So, what are the common pitfalls that you would find that they should avoid if they dare to take the first step to maybe try this out and look for more strongly impact investment? What should other pitfalls they should look out for?
Okay, so I'll answer quickly one thing, and then I'll try to demystify impact. Okay, that way it'll make it really simple. One thing that I recommend from my own 20-year experience in investing in impact tech entrepreneurs is that people that are coming from the nonprofit sector that think that they can build a tech startup built on their previous knowledge and experience in what the market needs in terms of the nonprofit market are usually not successful enough in building strong startups. So I do believe that you need to focus on the people who would otherwise maybe build any other kind of startup. So, whatever that can be, a gaming tech, whatever, and now decide to actually set up a startup that will address a social and environmental challenge and build a startup around that. Of course, they should have people that understand the market and have this maybe nonprofit background and social background. That's all fine. But I found that the best entrepreneurs are the ones who would otherwise in a different world, they would set up any other kind of company. So focus on the ones that have the best chances of success.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to demystify impact, okay? Because the word impact is sometimes unclear for people, even though it does have a definition. So just to add to what Inka was talking about, the definition of impact investing is really very simple. One, it's intentional. So it's not accidental that you make an impact, but actually you're trying to proactively create a solution for a problem that is defined through the social or environmental lens. Of course, it's also defined on the business lens, otherwise it's not a business. Number two, it's for profit. So you can decide where you want to be on the profit scale. But as we said, in technology, there's no need to compromise your profits, but it's not a non-profit activity. Impact investing is not non-profit. And number three is the very important component of impact management and measurement. If you don't set, so you go back to the intentionality, if you don't set the KPIs of what you're trying to achieve, then how do you know if you even made an impact or not? So you have to close the loop by measuring. And that is very important. So a lot of startups and a lot of funds are saying we do impact, but they actually don't measure it. And that cannot really bring them into the impact investing world. You have to manage and measure your impact the same way as you're managing and measuring everything else you do in your company. Now, just to go one layer, allow me 2 more minutes. One layer deeper. The world of impact, I think, is divided between two parts, internal and external. Internal means ESG, environment, social governance. How do we manage ourselves? Is our team diverse? How many women do we have on our management team? How many women do we have on our board and diverse populations? How do we treat our employees? How do we give them training opportunities? Is there profit sharing? All these, that's under the S. On the E side, what is our carbon footprint? How do we manage ourselves? So if we're a software-based startup, all we need to really review is how we manage and conduct ourselves. How much we travel, how much plastic do we use, how much paper do we use, electricity and stuff like that. If we're a production company that has a material production, then how do we source the raw materials? How do we make sure that there's no slavery and all these things? That's the E side, ES. And on the G side, it's really the governance of the company. How do we govern ourselves? Are we sure that we have everything in place to prevent sexual harassment, to prevent fraud, what is our relationship to our planet. So that's the ESG, and that's very internal. And this is how you conduct yourself. And I think that now everybody should be ESG compliant. So today, about 30% of all the capital under management in the world is going to ESG compliance. SFDR in Europe is becoming mainstream. All the money managers of all sorts are going to have to comply with ESG. It will be also unacceptable for you and me to work or buy a product that is created by a company that doesn't have good ESG standards. So that's the very basic, and everybody should review that. Then you have what's external from you outside, so your product and your business case. And that, here I will use the Sustainable Development Goals that are behind me, because it's a good codification of what our world needs, what our society needs, and what our planet needs until 2030 to be in a good position. And these goals that are represented by these colors are an easy way to understand and direct your KPIs. What is your target? So it's a good way to go through the process of management of what kind of impact you'd like to do. So instead of saying, I just do impact, which is such a general word, you can say, I want to affect SDG number 3, which is good health. And in SDG number 3, I want to address SDG number 3.4.1 that addresses the reduction of people who die from non-communicable diseases. So how does my product and my business case address that? This creates a common shared language between investors and between startups and between other global organizations, including nonprofits and philanthropy, and ties all of this together. And it also makes it possible to measure the impact that you're having. So really, it's not, I mean, it's a profession. It's not something you just download from Google and you'll be fine. But still, it's not rocket science. Trust me, it's pretty easy.
Well, let's go to this is the last point I have. We have 6 minutes left. So I don't know if we have time for a war story or not, but I'd love to hear one. But I want to hear, this is very interesting for all the current investors here and people who have a business which might have an investment already. Is that you mentioned that there can be added value if you use this impact glasses. If you have the impact glasses on and look at your company again, where impact wasn't really a thing, but maybe it could be. Could you extrapolate on that a little bit?
Yes, of course. So at Pitango, I have a strategy that divides the companies between impact natives, which are these companies that come from scratch and they know that they want to make an impact and are looking for the investors who will support them, and companies which we already have in our portfolio. So Pitango has about 70 companies in its portfolio, and they weren't born out of impact. So I have this process where I call it the impact migrants, and I create a migration. And maybe I'll use the war story so we can combine the two. So one of our portfolio companies is a company called VIA, which is a shared mobility company. It's a transportation as a service. It has a software that allows you as an individual to go on the app and say where you are and where you want to go. And you will get shared rides. So it's like a minibus with other people who are going pretty much where you're coming from and pretty much to where you're going, picking up people and discharging people on the way. Very efficient. And in many cases, the clients are local bus companies or local municipalities and local governments, which aim to reduce the amount of buses that are roaming around by schedule, but most of them are empty most of the time, so it's useless. Number two, encourage smaller vehicles so that the carbon emission is smaller, and also encourage electric vehicles where you totally scrap the carbon emission. And number three, to provide physical access by public transportation for people who need to go from one place to another without having to use a private car, which is very disturbing to the environment, but also very inefficient. So VIA is a unicorn. It's a huge company. It's active everywhere. And we started the migration process with VIA. So the first step was to go through the ESG analysis and see all these questions that are in the ESG checklist and what needs to be improved. And we put some KPIs in place, and already a lot has been improved, and we'll keep improving. Then we started to look at what are the sustainable development goals that VIA is addressing. And we recognize and identify the ones that the product of VIA is actually addressing, which is in equal opportunities. For example, people with limited ability, like people with disabilities in wheelchair, for example, they have trouble accessing public transportation. So VIA's clients are actually providing specially equipped vehicles that can provide the solution for that. So it's really physical accessibility. It also creates physical accessibility for people who need to go from, for example, a neighborhood near a big city, and what was their ability to reach jobs in their destination within, let's say, 30 minutes before VIA and after VIA. So before VIA, we actually made that research. Before VIA, a person in a neighborhood could access, where could he go in 30 minutes of public transportation? Not very far. After VIA, the range expanded by 3 times. And within that range, all of a sudden, there were 10,000 jobs, hospitals, universities, and other opportunities that create social equity. So it really creates equal opportunities and social mobility for people to really travel in an inexpensive, affordable, and accessible way that gets them to where they're going. So we looked at the environment side, we looked at the social side, we linked that to the Sustainable Development Goals. And now when they present their product to their potential customers through business development, marketing, when they recruit people to the company, part of their narrative is what impact they're creating. And that has already been embedded into their story.
Now, I think this helps. We can sometimes forget when you're selling something, who do they have to convince? Like, this is business to business mostly. Well, if you sell to the man, is it the wife making the decision? There are families as well, or the other way around. So that they can use this to give reasons to buy from them, or reasons. Let's say they're the bus, like they can have this complementary to the buses. The city might, if they don't have the environment, this sustainable goal and angle, they might not care about it. But now when they do, they're like, well, you actually, because they in turn have their politicians wanting this to happen. So it makes a chain of positive change. And then it helps, as you say, that when you do this review, in my opinion, it helps that you can already say this is goal 15.5.2. So because otherwise the people have to translate to, like, if there's a chain of people, I say, okay, these guys help with the climate, and then it's like, wait, what do you mean? Like, how do you see? And if I have it, like, bam, this is that. There's a little pamphlet.
It's codification. That's exactly what it is. You codify it, and then everybody speaks the same language.
There we go. And then you make some more money. So that's the idea, right? Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Then let's see. I think that let's see if we can take a question. And otherwise than that, I want to throw Fiban in on stage. So Johanna, not yet, but be ready. I want to have you on stage. But let's see if we have some questions in the chat. Where is that? Can I not? Oh, there we go.
I see. What are some of the KPIs? How do we quantify impact? Yeah, so I think the KPIs are your business KPIs. So let's take VIA again. So if VIA has a business KPI of deploying, I don't know, another 50 locations in the next year, I'm just inventing this. Now let's put the perspective of the social impact or environmental impact to that KPI and say, okay, if you're going to be deployed in 50 new locations, this actually could result in a reduction of what amount of cars in the streets, what amount of CO2 emission, what amount of people having access to jobs or to education that they didn't have before. So these are KPIs that are quantifiable, and they're totally linked with your business KPIs. So any startup that has a product that addresses a problem, the problem can be verbalized through the business lens, which it should be, but you should also add the social environmental lens. And if you can tie it to the actual Sustainable Development Goals, which many of them are actually quantifiable, then you have a clear view of your target and what you're also what you're measuring. And obviously the ESG KPIs are also there. So if you don't have enough women in your management team, then one KPI should be this year we will add 2 more people in our management team and we will recruit women. Or if you don't have enough diversity in your teams in wherever, then you put a KPI in there, and then it's easy also to manage and measure. I think
you mentioned something that you use this review. You check what are these goals that fit with what we are doing, because you can't do all of them. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So you pick one, and I would say for you guys to be easy to start, pick one, like goal specific. Pick this is like, it can even be easy for you. But pick that one and start measuring that, and then maybe in a year or in a half year you pick another one. Like, you can build it like that. You don't have to take, because this might feel like, oh, should I have all the goals now and like fill my whole company? That just Just start with one.
Absolutely. A lot of the companies have just one goal, not even a goal, like an indicator within a goal, because these 17 goals are broken down into 169 indicators. And what I always recommend to the entrepreneurs is to read the indicators. Just read all of them and see which one of them actually speaks your product. And that's, now, if there's 10 of them, it's too much. Start thinking, where do you focus? Because that's probably also your business problem. Lack of focus.
Yeah. All right, Cecile, that will have to be the last question for now, because I want to bring in Fiban a little bit. So Cecile, thank you very much for this. We'll be back with you on the Q&A very soon. But that was really cool, talk. So you can just, if you click the camera and mic off, see you soon. And then let's see, can we get Johanna from Fiban? Now, I realize I don't remember your last name, Johanna, so maybe you have to write in the chat or something so we can find you and add you to the stage, because I think that is what we'll have to do, because you don't have all your names. It's kind of weird as well. Let's see, general chat. Yeah, there we go. Okay, Johanna Atiainen. Let's see if we can find you here. Yes. Okay. There we go. Make you speaker. There we go. Okay, now you're a speaker, so now you should be able to put broadcast on with. Hey, look at that! Okay. Amazing.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you and see you. Wonderful. Great. So tell us a little bit quickly. You have some of your members here, but not everybody knows what Fiban is and how we can get involved. So please share what you're up to.
Yes, thank you very much, Rasmus, and thank you also Cecile and Inka for the great presentations and discussions. So my name is Johanna Atiainen. I'm Fiban's Training and Development Manager, and just very briefly about what is Fiban and what kind of opportunities we have for you. So as the name implies, Fiban is a Finnish Business Angels Network, and we are always very proud to highlight and remind that we're actually one of the largest and most active angel investors in the world. So we have over 650 approved investor members, and we're a non-profit, and we have three main services that we offer for our members. So one is deal flow and co-investing. So if you're a startup looking for angel investors or investments, be sure to go and check out our website. We have lots of information there for you. And then secondly, we also do lots of research on angel investing. And last but not the least, we also do lots of education and investment materials. So lots of trainings, and many of our training sessions are aimed at our investor members, but we have also many training sessions that are open for everybody to join. So for example, next week we have three awesome discussions coming up. So be sure to check out our events calendar, fiban.org/events. So there you can see more what kind of sessions we have, and you are of course all warmly welcome to join the sessions. But that's all from my side. I don't want to take too much of your time, and I wish you all a very great session and fruitful networking after the session. But yeah, so all back to Rasmus.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Thank you for sharing. Fiban is great. I've been involved with them a couple of Yeah, Johanna, you have to put your camera and mic off, and then I'll find a way to. Sure. There is some way to throw you away, but I don't remember. There's a button. Okay, there we go. No longer broadcaster. No, okay, now she's gone. All right. So, okay, now I was going to share the schedule quickly, so you guys, some of you just love schedules, and I'm going to, provide that feeling of amazement. Okay, so here's the schedule. So we now sorry about that, guys. Here we go. Here's the schedule. So we're right now to the Q&A, and after this, we will have the opportunity in the ecosystem. We'll present a little bit again, and then we'll have the networking where you can meet all these cool people. So, but that was just quickly, so you can see that. Oh, wow, that was really cool. Look at this. All right. So then it's time for the Q&A, everybody. You have a lot of questions coming up here. So Inka and Cecile, please take the stage, and we'll hit through. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions. It's a lot of questions we got to go through. We'll see if we have time for all of them. And we have Inka on stage. There we go. Nice. So I don't know. Maybe we can start with. Let's start with this one because it was upvoted with a little. So for both of you guys, maybe we can start with Inka because she hasn't talked for a while. The question was, what can universities and research institutes do differently to, one, get more innovation on the market, and two, to help drive more investment into the science-based solutions they already have? Kind of a large question, but Inka, would you give a first stab at it?
Sure. Well, I think firstly, the whole funding system for the university should be changed, that the incentive shouldn't be only publication based. It should be also based on the number of spin-offs being created. Secondly, there are currently pretty good incubation programs inside universities. However, those are university specific. So what I would encourage would be to create university kind of incubation programs combining different universities. That would mix the scientific talent, kind of uplift the entrepreneurial skills. Thirdly, what I would recommend for the teams to do is to get connected with the entrepreneurial ecosystem as soon as possible. So we're, for example, having this Science Startup Day now coming. It's led by Business Finland. We started this initiative with Lifeline Ventures ourselves, VTT Launchpad, and Nordic Food Tech and Business Finland a year ago. Minister of Culture and Science was the opener in the event, and the whole idea is that we'll start bringing the community together. You know, once you have these different science-based initiatives actually meeting each other potential team members and pitching to investors, the level will start raising from the county level to the national level, and then we need to get to the global level. So those are probably those things. And then, of course, let's say encouraging these flexible career paths. It's great to be an entrepreneur if you're an academic researcher, and vice versa. So in a way, we have a bit of this black and white thinking still in the academia, that only as a kind of a true researcher, you're serving a bigger purpose. And I think you can also implement the bigger purpose by being an entrepreneur.
All right. Thank you, Inka. Cecile, do you have any stab on this one? How to get more innovation to the market and help to drive the investments?
I think that to me, they're a little bit of a different breed, the researchers and the entrepreneurs. And I also wrote something about this in the chat. I think that it's best to combine the two, but not necessarily to turn the researchers into entrepreneurs and vice versa. Many of the researchers, at least that I've seen, were not always interested in leading their own company. Maybe they wanted to be an advisor, they wanted to commercialize their idea and work with a startup, but then they move on to their next research and additional things that they want to do. And they're not very entrepreneurial in terms of the business side. They're sometimes very entrepreneurial internally in terms of the research, but not very on the business side, and vice versa. So I think the combination of the tech transfer between the universities and the faculty members and the researchers and the entrepreneurs, like to bring them together, to find ways to bring these ideas to the market by people who are business people and entrepreneurs that want to really go out and conquer the world with those amazing technologies behind them. I think that's a good way to get this done. I don't think we speak enough between, like there's a sort of a wall. There's not enough discussion, even though here in Israel we have like technology transfer officers in all the universities, and personally I participate in a lot of events and hackathons and stuff like that with universities, but it's just feels like there's a disconnect between the two worlds, and it's not connected enough. So that's not to say that that technology is not used for startups. Of course it is, and more, but we could do better. And I just think the combination is tough.
Yeah, I saw this argument. It was somebody writing like why deep tech isn't all the rage, like it's not that good as you may think. And what he said was that it's unfortunately way too common that a deep tech startup will be run past by a inferior technological solution, but the team has like a stronger entrepreneurial mindset, so they get the business done, while the scientific team tends to like it just. The skill set is so different. So yeah, I believe that this combination is very important as well. Okay, well, let's move on with other people's questions as well. So here we have from Timo, what are the most feasible investment mechanisms and sources in your opinion when it comes to deep tech startup needs? Because they need deep pockets. And that's something that Inka, you hit it on in the beginning, that there's many stages in this because it can take a little bit longer to go to the market. Maybe you can start this time again. Could you go a little bit, what is the... Maybe I don't even understand the question of feasible investment mechanisms and sources to deep. Maybe Timo, you can you explain, or do you understand the question, Cecile or Inka? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Please, can you explain the question for me?
Yeah, I think it's referring to what kind of instrument to use as an angel investor. Is it some sort of a convertible loan or equity based or something else? Well, this really depends on the market. I would just go with a normal equity-based instrument. That's how the market tends to work. Then, of course, in some cases, if the company is about soon to raise a major round, convertible might make sense as a bridge round. But I don't have any, strong other views there. But what we always try to do is really work hard with the founders to see what other funding instruments they could leverage, just due to the fact that the capital requirements are so high and there are so many soft loans and grants and EU Horizon instruments that one could leverage if you're smart.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that there is a difference between different kinds of funds. A private equity fund is not necessarily like a venture capital fund, and so on. So you have to bark up the right tree. A venture capital fund usually has a 7 to 10 year period where they invest in the first part and then they manage in the second part. And if you have a technology that will take 7 or 8 years to mature into the market, then you're not a good fit for venture capital. So there's no point in going to a venture capital fund unless you're already well advanced into your product and you think that within the next few years, 3 to 5 years, you can actually deliver a product into the market and then scale it. Otherwise, it's just not a good fit. You have to go out and look for other kinds of capital. So I think the alignment between I spoke about it in my talk about the alignment between the values of the investors and the entrepreneurs, but it's also the alignment about their mission. The venture capital funds they have investors too. They have LPs, which they are committed to return capital within a certain amount of time. So they will not take the risks or unnecessary risks with a very deep tech. It will take many, many years to evolve. It's very important to have an alignment.
All right. Let me ask one of my questions here. It goes to the money problem. Is that, some have said that, if you have to take an investment, that's fine. But if you take a second investment, you kind of failed because you weren't able to sustain your business or grow it fast enough using the original capital available. I know this is not the truth. I'm just saying that that's an opinion that's out there. But I'm thinking here in this case, when it comes to this long line of long time it takes to mature these ideas that can happen. How is that? Because we talk about profit maximization and stuff like this. I'm thinking that it should be impacting your ability to make that money back if it takes so long for it and it have to have so many rounds in order to get it really up and running.
No, it's a question of, you build the rounds based on the company needs. And it depends on which kind of fund you are. I mean, if you're only investing in early stage, that at some point you'll stop investing in the company and the company will move on to raise capital from growth capital investors. It's really a process. I mean, as I said, investors have a sweet spot. They know what is their strategy and what they're trying to achieve and which companies at which stages they can support and what they expect to happen. And when you invest in very early stage, by definition that at some point, you'll invest in 2, 3, maybe 4 rounds, and you'll try to keep your pro rata share. But at some point, you'll stop investing, and you'll be diluted just like everyone else because the company will move on. So, as an early stage fund, you make your own strategy and you invest in the right companies that you believe that will mature in the lifetime of the fund. If you're a growth fund, like we have here in Pitango, a growth fund as well, then you start investing at the 10, 15, 20 million mark, where this is the capital that you put in. And then the companies are well established, they're already in the market, they need to scale. It's just, that's the normal way that investments are made.
How about you, Inka? Do you have a comment on this? I'm thinking, especially from the angel investors, because some angel investors thinking here, and they hear wait, I have to wait to get any type of, because they might not need 100x money. They might look for 10x or 5x. It's a great exit, great situation for them. What should they think of? You guys have more experience in this, even though you are venture firms. I know you're not angel investors in this respect. Inka, do you have any opinion on this or comment?
Yeah, I do, and I of course was 12 years of full-time seed and angel investor before founding the fund. So, one angle, of course, in this deep tech side is that there tends to be secondary rounds more than a pure play equity rounds like with digital growth companies. So there tends to be more like secondary rounds when you hit Series B or C or D. The investors want to clean up the cap table. They might pay you basically 20 to 30% discount of the subscription price of the shares. So that might be a way for angels to make an exit. And it's not a bad strategy at all, angel investor, if you've been on board from the foundation of the company. Then secondly is that, of course, the companies need to have clean and smart cap tables. So it can't be that one angel investor has received like 30% of the company for like no money at all. So in a way, the founders need to be smart enough to build the packages as such that it really makes sense. So I would say that maybe for family offices, these impact investments are really valuable. Family offices tend to have maybe a bit bigger balance sheets and a longer term perspectives and also way to create value. But I wouldn't hesitate that either as a angel investor. If you can truly add value to the startup that you're working with, if that's your strategy, of course you can be hands-off angel investor as well. As I think we're now in this kind of there's a new time and a new way to measure the success of the business, and this is obviously the thing that it's a new area for angel investors as such, and you can't learn it unless you start working on it. But I would be very wary of the capital requirements. If you're building a production plant, you'll need a lot of money.
Yeah. But then, and then you should see that there are ways to get out of it. If there's many investment rounds, you can look at the situation where they want to get rid of you, and if you have a 5% stake, that could be an exit opportunity.
Yeah, sure. And then of course, let's remember also that the best growing digital companies also, they raise huge amounts of money as well. There's dilution as well to the angel investors. But as again, if they are, super fast growers and they're like 200 million Series B or C done, there's of course, a chance for a secondary rounds as well. So in the most successful angel investment cases, I actually believe that there's a chance for secondary earlier than for VC funds.
All right. I have a question. This is what combines with what I thought about, because I write how to assess and then maybe even like make a good team, because we talked about how it's very commonly situation for the scientists to not have such a strong business background or that's not their strongest skill set. So what are the ways that you assess that as an investor, or is there any way to fix that if the team doesn't have it? And then I'll go to Matthew. I'll go to your question after that. So maybe Cecile, you can. What's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I don't think that VCs will invest in a team that needs to be built. They will invest in a team that they think has the greatest potential to succeed, and they'll work with the company once they invest in adding to the team, improving the team, creating business opportunities, add value, all of these things. But the first thing we look at is team. Like we have a 4T, our strategy, our investment strategy is 4T and I. So it's team, theme, which is the market, technology, obviously, and the terms, right, of the deal, and I is the impact. So this is what we look at, and the team is it's the number one thing. So if we think the team is very weak and they won't make it, we're not going to try to find the relevant teams. I think this is for really more very early stage or angel investors or incubators where the entrepreneurs go through accelerators. This is where they have to do their team building. I think that when you want to get funded by a VC, if you don't come in with a strong team, or at least you're very strong in what you can do and you need maybe a counterpart that will help in this one thing. So if the fund believes in you as the entrepreneur and they believe that you need to add, I don't know, somebody who's very strong in VP R&D, they'll help you find one. But it has to, at least one of the founders needs to be like amazing. Otherwise they won't invest.
Yeah, Inka, the question is here to you, like what to look for in a business wizard. The founder qualities before committing to funding and track record and failing, and many questions there. But so it's the same question, but a little bit different for you, Inka. What's your comment on this?
Yeah, so of course, the team has to be there, and particularly in terms of the science and the technology, it has to be leading edge team. The handicaps, there isn't a perfect team, at least in the Nordics. Let's face it, we have so little deep tech entrepreneurship experience here, so few of Nikola Teslas in the world anyway. So what we tend to kind of look at is that firstly, what are the dynamics? Is everyone involved full time? Sometimes with university and research-based startups, you tend to have these free riders on the cap table. That's a red flag. Everyone should be kind of a jump into this entrepreneurial role. Do they feel comfortable with it? How do they kind of assess their own lives during the next 2 to 5 to 7 years? This is a dialogue that you need to have a bit of a heart-to-heart with the science team or the researcher team. Then also understanding what kind of talent is needed in which stage. It might be that you don't need a head of sales if you're still in the lab. But you need someone who is capable of attracting industrial partners to see your tech MVP or to do a proof of concept pilot with you. And then later on, you need to add these skills. However, in the best teams, I'll give you an example of Genomill Health. Basically, a global, Finnish guy who has worked in Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, MIT, ETH, just leading research in his field. Then the hustler, the commercial guy, the CEO, who doesn't hesitate to call the CEO of a big pharma. He just goes and gets the attention. He's socially skilled and gets everyone laughing and all of that. Then one lawyer in the team who does really good deals. He doesn't make bad deals. And then a few medical advisors, basically doctors who kind of know to slow them down a little bit. That's been a super good team.
Well, how would they? Let's say the person listening to this they're mostly scientists. Let's say that they want to know how to find a good business person. Do you have any idea, any advice in either of you? Yeah.
So then start firstly talking that you're looking for a business person. Say it to everyone. Hey, we're looking for someone who can join our team to lead the commercial operations. And then, of course, don't commit to the first possible choice. Have a trial, see a quick project, what the person can do. Then secondly, reach out to your investors, ask for introductions, make noise in the events. You need to go, you will not find this person from the labs. Yeah. And then, of course, your investors may help you.
Yeah, and really get some help. I mean, we have a head of people, and one of the best things that is important that funds do is to help build the right team and with the right energy between them and collaboration. And people don't always see when you meet someone. Sometimes you kind of fall in love with this person and you really want to work with him, but then the falling in love part gets away out of the way, and then you realize that actually this person is not that great. So that's the skill set of these talent developers who can really see this, because they've seen hundreds of those, so they can see the cohesion between the potential cohesion between the team. They do background search, and they really help.
Thank you, Cecile. Okay, let's see what else. We had, what are the risks for deep tech impact and science-based investments, which are not necessarily the same thing, but what are the risks that you find there? And I'm thinking maybe this is for a angel investor perspective here we're talking.
Well, the risk in investing in technology is that you don't know if the technology will work. You don't know if the market will want it. You don't know if they'll pay what you think they'll pay. You don't know that you'll be able to recruit the right people. I mean, it's a bunch of unknowns.
Yeah.
we live in the world of unknown. But there's always a risk, and there's always also an impact risk. What if you're actually developing something that will be used to create harm, or will actually not deliver on the premise of the impact that you're trying to create? So these are things that you need to consider. The likelihood. It's investing is a profession, and it's really not math. I don't think there is an algorithm that can really tell you what will be a good investment. I don't even think that when you make an investment, you can really have the gut feeling about this is going to be successful. I could probably count on one hand the investors who've really known always from scratch, like this team is going to make it big. Usually we're wrong, and it's unexpected. So it's really high risk. I really urge you not to put your pension money on this or your children's money on this, but really use capital that is something that you're ready to lose. But you also expect to gain much if you succeed. So it really needs to be a person with very strong personality that is able to take the risks and the ups and downs. Most of the successful startups were on the brink of bankrupt a few times before they succeeded. It's a roller coaster. I mean, it's not for a faint of heart.
Yeah, and maybe with the deep tech investment, when there's very little customer traction, it's very hard to know if the market is ready. If you compare to SaaS products, like most simpler things that you can develop, you can kind of quickly check, like, is there a market for this, and it gets some market feedback. But it can be extremely hard if the tech isn't there yet. We think we're going to be able to make a fusion reactor, but we don't know. We think
that's the difference between incremental technology and disruptive technology. So if you are just going to make something better than is already existing, then you know how the market works, is it failing, and then you step in with a better product, and then you may succeed. But if you disrupt the market, then you just reinvent something, like totally. It's like, people ask about Elon Musk or Tesla. Tesla is not a car company. It's a conceptual mobility company. It's just not the same level of looking at car companies. It's not a car company, and that's
they're not making any money yet either. So that's
well, yes, but you know what? They're disrupting how society uses a lot of things that we use even in our daily lives. So in a way, if you want to be a disruptor, you take all the risks, because you don't know how people. Steve Jobs, who knew we needed iPhones?
Yeah, that was really important.
So that's the nature of a disruptor.
Yeah, Inka, what do you have any to add to this dark picture of completely unknown? Well, it can be really cool, but you don't know.
Yeah. So if you are a risk-averse person, don't invest into deep tech. Invest into something else.
Real estate.
Real estate.
But I think one risk, of course, is that if you have if the founder team has a too narrow view on the market or the competition, and that's one of the things that you need to always demand from the founder team, is that you need to educate me on the market, you need to educate me on the customers and the competition. And often the deep tech competition relies inside the big corporations. The big corporations do secret R&D in a new chipset or new algorithm, or they might have a completely different kind of a supply chain strategy, and they want to do. So that's one thing. So you need to understand the competition. So in a way you can see that, okay, where could this company, if it succeeds, what is the role that they can play in this ecosystem, or how would they disrupt? Then the other risk, of course, relates to how do you get to the markets. Tough part is, for example, medtech is quite regulatory heavy. You have very different go-to-markets in Europe, in different countries, and that's where you need this expertise. So don't go there blind-eyed thinking that, this is just a normal thing, like, scale. It's not. So different industries may have different specialities, and there it might be really good to have industry expertise in the team or in the advisory pool, even though they would be disrupting with their solution something. And then I would also look into this. Many of the deep tech companies actually tend to grow. There are many particularly hardware-related companies. They depend on this first big design win. Once they get this one big design win, they tend to start scaling and manufacturing and all of that. And then some companies actually just have to go on and build everything from end to end their own, like what iPhone was or Tesla was. And understanding this as well as an investor, like, what would be the path, might be worthwhile to consider. But those maybe are the thoughts on.
All right.
It's super risky.
Yeah, it's super risky. And I would say, watch out to fall in love with something that's not a good investment if you want to make money from it, because it might not be good. Okay, we are actually out of time on this part, but I was just going to see if there's anything we should really. Wow, you guys, you have so many cool. You know what? You have great questions here. Please ask them in the tables. So I'll say thank you to you guys, but you will be in the table soon. I'll have a quick presentation before we hit the tables. So thank you, Inka. Thank you, Cecile. It was really good talking with you. I got you 2 times today. Oh, look at that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome.
Having us. We'll see you at the tables.
See you at the tables.
Bye.
See you at the tables.
All right.
Bye.
So to finish this off, before we go to the table where you can ask all these questions on your own, laptop of mine really struggles with this thing. Share, and let's see, can do this. Yes, let's see if I can do like that. Okay. And %. Yes. So just quick before we move on to the tables, we're almost done. We're in the networking session. Big thanks again to Cecile and Inka. It was really cool having both of them here to talk with us. You please reach out. Those of you thinking, do I need a commercial or something? Are you ever looking for an investment? Please go and talk with them. Say, I'm working on this cool thing. Dare to speak up. They are not reached out enough in person or in these events. They are getting these cold emails, and then they prefer to meet in person. I didn't ask Cecile or Inka this, but that's as usual what these investors say. So use the time when they have them. And remember, we can check the Lab to Market. It's also in the chat. You can join that, see the website there. Business Events Expo has a lot of events. Remember, you can check those out. Aalto has a couple of keynotes or interesting speeches coming up, open to all. You see here in the lower right corner, there are 3 of them already scheduled that you can visit and listen. And then we have Launchpad. We're looking for commercialization agents, especially if you have an industry background. We'd love to hear from you. And FIBA never mentioned, but they're the #1, so that's kind of cool. Like Finland first, we're the #1 of the largest business angel network. That's kind of cool, I guess, per capita. But anyway, I guess maybe not. But all right, moving on. And the next event, we're probably going to have something on this research science pitching event, but I don't know. There was 2 days for that, so I don't know which day it is. So that's why I didn't write it. Sorry about that. Now, time for tables, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for listening and participating. And please come talk with me. You can also add me on LinkedIn, Rasmus Basilia. You have my name there in the corner as well. So please add me on LinkedIn. I'd love to stay in touch, and see you guys at the tables. Bye-bye.